wastewater treatment using inverse fluidized bed reactors. And let me introduce about our institute. Our institute is old one. We are celebrating now Diamond Jubilee, 60 years completed. These buildings are our heritage buildings. The first one is administrative building. This is one old teaching complex, new administrative building. And whereas Department of Chemical Engineering in NIT Calicut, it was started in 2006 only. And initially 3 faculty joined. Myself, one of my senior and one junior. We 3 only developed all department facilities from 2006 onwards. It took 4 years because first batch has to go out. No, 4 years to settle. After that, we started in 2015 one PG program. So meantime, I assumed the charges as HOD for twice, and we are having BTech program, MTech program, and PhD. So average strength I have given 105 per year. So total it will be 400. MTech 18, but less students are joining. Around 8 to 10 only joining per year. We have good faculty strength now. Earlier it was less. Now we have good strength 19, and we have staff, all lab staff, adapt only 10 plus 2 technical staff and 2 non-technical. So last year we conducted the virtual international conference, and total participants around 160, and we published 3 journals: Chemical Engineering and Technology, Biomass Conversion, Biorefinery, SN Applied Sciences. In 2018 also we conducted one international conference, and we invited one professor from Nottingham University and published around 20 papers in Fuel Journal. So these conferences we conducted earlier. And let me show some of the facilities, lab facilities in our department. This is a research lab, and now we have more. It is fully occupied. I have not taken recent photograph of that. Let us see the instrumental facilities. We have BET surface area analyzer, TGA thermogravimetric analyzer, and universal testing machine, FTIR spectrophotometer, and this one is UV visible spectrophotometer. This one FTIR, gas chromatography and ion exchange chromatography. We have total organic carbon analyzer and electrochemical workstation. We have camera, microscope camera, refrigeration centrifuge, probe ultrasonicator. And these are some of the undergraduate laboratories. So some other facility, we have fluidized bed reactor. We have totally 2 UV spectrophotometers, one more, this one, and atomic absorption spectroscopy, and one fermenter. So other UG lab facilities. And we purchased one biodiesel plant of 7.5 lakh cost. One of my student, she prepared the biodiesel from the rubber seed oil, and she used this capacity is 75 liters. She used this pilot plant for her final studies because it consumes more chemicals. Let us come to the topic. Let me introduce first to fluidization. What is fluidization? What is inverse fluidization? Then we'll go for the research. Gas and liquids are fluids. They can flow easily. Whereas solids, they cannot flow, but we can make the solids to flow, like liquids and gas, fluids. So this phenomenon is termed as fluidization. So if you have upward flow of liquid or gas, this will carry the solids also. So this is that phenomena is termed as fluidization. Okay. So under the fluidization conditions, the solid particles have density greater than that of the liquid. Let me show the basic diagram of a fluid bed reactor. See, I can say this is a combination of packed bed reactor and CSR, mixed flow reactor. The special feature of packed bed reactor is we can increase the residence time of the material. Whereas uniform composition, it is a question in packed bed reactor. Whereas in stirred tank reactor or CSTR, we'll get uniform composition, but residence time, you know very well, in mixed flow reactors, once we put all components or reactants, immediately that will be converted into final. There is no slow processing, so product quality will be questionable. So, but in our fluidized bed reactor, we have both advantages from packed bed as well as mixed flow reactor. You see, packed bed, I said advantage as we can increase the residence time. So, in fluidized bed reactor also, we can increase the residence time. Then CSTR, uniform composition. For uniform composition in CSTR, we are mixing the contents, but here we are not doing any mixing. We are not using any stirrer. Mixing will be there. We are not using any stirrer, but even then, contents will be mixed. Let us see. This is the basic diagram for the fluidized bed reactor, particularly used for coal gasification. So we have a cylindrical tank, and gas will be introduced from the bottom through sparger. And you can keep above the sparger, you can keep the coal particles, okay, and you can make the solids to flow also. There will be one constant solid inlet and solid outlet. So it will be continuous process, okay. And what is the difference between packed bed and fluidized bed? In packed bed, the column will be having packings of 100% volume. That means the column is fully packed with the solid particles. The particles may be catalysts or may be supporting materials, okay, or maybe reactants, okay. Whereas in fluidized bed, we are not packing the column with 100%. Instead, 30 to 50% maximum or 60% packing will be done, okay. And when you apply this gas flow or liquid flow, the solids will try to move along the path with the gas or liquid. It will move with the gas or liquid with the same path, okay. But it can not come out, but liquids will come even at moderate velocities, but these particles will suspend. It will make a suspension in the reactor. So at certain velocity only, they will try to flow. So that is termed as minimum fluidization velocity. And this after that velocity, it is the reactor is called fluidized bed reactor. The phenomena is called fluidization. So initially, this reactor was developed for the purpose of coal gasification or coal combustion. Okay. So let us compare our fluidized bed reactor with the fixed bed reactor. See, in fixed bed reactor, you have full packing. So if I place two objects which are having different densities, since the packings are full, what happens, even though there will be liquid or gas, the two objects will be at the top only. Whereas in fluidized bed, at the fluidized condition, the solids will be in the form of suspended, and it is not a 100% packing, so the fluid will be covering the complete volume of the column, and solids will be suspended. So if I put two objects, one object with higher density will sink, object with low density will float. Okay. Then if I measure the pressure drop, I cannot relate this pressure drop with the height or weight of the solids in the packing. Whereas for fluidized bed, if I measure the pressure drop, I can link the height or weight of the solids. It is proportional to the height or weight of the solids. And in packed bed, the packing or filling of the solids, it is hectic. And also the removal also. Removal manually we have to do. Whereas here, what we can do, filling will be manual, but removal, no, it will be quite easy. You see, you can give the fluid flow. maybe liquid or gas flow, at increased flows, what happens? The solids will rise, and we have one outlet. We can keep the outlet in the middle or slightly lower. Then all particles we can collect with the liquid. So it will gus easily. Okay. Then one more point, the difference. If I put one partition inside the packed bed, see what happens? Yeah, the level won't be equal because the particles are having 100% packing, even though there is liquid, but levels cannot be equal. But here, the level will be equal. Okay. So these are the differences, and let us move to the advantages. So these 2 days bed reactors will minimize the risk of blockage. There will be good solid mixing. Pressure drop will be less. Heat and mass transfer rates will be high, and we can connect series of reactors and we can do circulations. One reactor I am keeping adjacently, I can keep number of reactors, and whatever outlet from the first reactor can be taken to the second reactor. Okay. And there are no moving parts, whereas in CSTR we have the stirrer. Here there is no moving part, so maintenance cost will be less. And the reactor is vertical reactor, so we can save some cost on land. If you have horizontal big reactors, giant reactors, then we need more land, whereas this one is vertical. And it is a continuous process. We'll get continuous output and also more capacity we can plan. And there is no need of skilled operator. Operator, no, you can train and you can operate the equipment. And it is suitable for heat sensitive or exothermic, endothermic reaction. Any heat sensitive reactions also we can conduct in fluidized bed reactor. Yeah, it is easy to control even for large scale production, and we can introduce heat exchangers, low surface area heat exchangers inside the bed, and we can transfer the heat. Okay, so how we can pass the medium? We can insert the heat exchanger and pass the medium through the heat exchanger. The media will transfer the heat that can be utilized outside. Okay, then it is possible for multi-stage operations. The meaning is the same reactor you can divide into compartments, 3, 4 compartments. In different compartment, you can keep different solids, maybe different size also. Okay, and you can conduct the reaction or your water treatment. Then solid residence time as well as the fluid residence time can be adjusted. So there will be solid inlet and outlet. The solid inlet can be adjusted. Fluids, yeah, we have to adjust. Liquid flow as well as gas flow, we can easily control. Coming to the disadvantages, so we need some special techniques for handling fine-sized particles. Okay, fine-sized particles agglomerate and it will settle easily, so very difficult to handle. And increased reactor vessel size. Vessel size is the height is higher, so it may need some infrastructure cost. Okay, and hydrodynamics features are complex, and modeling scale up are difficult. And elevation of fines. Sometimes the fines may mesh at the top and bottom. Sometimes these fines will escape the mesh because we will keep certain mesh size only. Sometimes during the reaction or water treatment, we will get fine size particles that may escape. And we need some power consumption for pumping. Yeah, sticky materials will fluidize the bed, defluidize the bed. Yeah, if the material is sticky, then fluidization won't occur. It will form a sludge at the bottom. And there are limitations on the operating velocity region. And even choice of particle size range also limited. You cannot go bigger sizes, and also you cannot choose the subfines. And highly skilled professionals are needed for design and scale up. You can see initially we are taking gas solid fluidized bed. Liquid solid will be fine. It will be smooth. Whereas gas solid, it is not smooth fluidization. Okay. So let us first see the gas solid fluidized bed. The same conditions you can apply for liquid solid. There won't be much regions in liquid solid. Initially, I have a column. In that column, I have the mesh at the bottom. Mesh means you can assume, yeah, this, sieve type we have studied, no, sieve. Okay, and I can introduce the gas through the mesh or sparger, so that there will be uniform distribution. Okay, and known quantity of solids are kept inside the column. So it should be, as I mentioned, maximum of 40 to 60% you can keep, or 30 to 50%. Okay. So when I introduce gas through this sparger, gas flow will be top. Okay. Initially, I have a packing. At the bottom, I have a packing. The column is it is not full. Packing is not full, partially filled. So there is space for gas flow at the top of the bed also. Then I am in at certain velocity, gas velocity I am introducing. Gas is introduced at certain flow rate. Okay, so it will pass through the voids of the solid, and then it will come out of the bed, and it will be occupying this top portion, and it may be leaving. If I keep the top open, it will be leaving. Or here also I can put one spargers, and I have to keep vents. Then gas may leave. Okay, but the height won't change. So slowly I have to introduce the gas velocity. Then what happens at one particular velocity, the top layer will be disturbed. Top particles will be disturbed. Still, if I increase the velocity, the particles will try to move. So now it is said as onset of fluidization, or fluidization starts. Okay. If you find variation in the bed height, then you can say that is the at that particular velocity. You have to note the velocity at which the bed height changes. That velocity is termed as minimum fluidization velocity. And we can say fluidization occurs, or this is the fluidization phenomenon. So still I increase the velocity based on the particle size. Sometimes bubbling may occur along with the minimum fluidization velocity or after the minimum fluidization velocity. So still I increase the velocity, the bubbling will occur. That means bubbles will be formed inside the bed, and also above the bed the bubbles will be released. So this is termed as bubbling. Still, if I increase the velocity, what happens? The bubble size will meet the, or it will be equal to the column diameter. So that is termed as slugging. Slugs will be formed. So the velocity will be slugging velocity. If I still increase, I may observe the turbulent flow of the gas. So the particles will be in the suspended form. Okay, and they are ready to go out, transfer. They are ready to be transferred. Okay. Still, if I increase, it is called fast fluidization. Once the particles reach terminal velocity, then particles can be taken out. If there is no mesh at the top, the particles can be taken out, or it can be recycled back. Okay. So this figure, from this figure, you can observe the difference between liquid solid fluidized bed and gas solid fluidized bed. As I said, liquid solid fluidized bed will be smooth. Okay. See, you can observe only two things. Initially, it will be packed bed. As the velocity, operating velocity is greater than minimum fluidization velocity and less than terminal velocity, then it will be fluidized bed, and it will be smooth. Liquid will be full, whereas particles above the minimum fluidization velocity, they will be suspended or fluidized. In fluidized, don't use suspended for your understanding. I'm telling it is fluidized. Okay. Then still, if you increase, once the velocity, operating velocity reaches terminal velocity, these particles will be transferred. Okay. If you see gas fluidized velocity, see gas fluidized bed. First one is the operating velocity above minimum bubbling velocity. Then second case, it is above minimum slugging velocity, less than transport velocity. And this one is greater than transport velocity and less than UMD, that is transition velocity. The phase is transition. Above transport velocity is transition. Then terminal velocity. Once it reaches transition velocity for the turbulence. Okay, then this one is the above terminal velocity. The particles can be transferable. And so far I said we can use liquid or gas. So it will be liquid solid or gas solid. And all three phases I can use. Then it is called gas, liquid, solid, three-phase fluidized bed reactor. So if you can observe the different regimes, how the bed is during the operation of three-phase fluidized bed reactor. See, it will be in the mixer form. Okay, I am introducing gas and liquid in the upward flow. Particles are there. So what I can do for this, I can keep gas flow rate at one particular velocity. I can vary the liquid flow rate. Later, if I want, I can keep the liquid flow rate at particular velocity and I can vary the gas flow rate. So one is liquid is fixed means I can get minimum gas fluidization velocity. Gas is fixed means I can get minimum liquid fluidization velocity. So you can see how it happens. So slowly the bed will increase and the particles will be detached from the bed and they will fluidize. And you can make plots from the experiments. Experimental part I will explain again. If I make a plot of bed pressure drop versus gas velocity, then what happens you see, as I increase the gas velocity, the bed pressure drop increases until the bed is static or packed bed. Once the bed fluidizes, then the pressure drop won't increase, it will be constant. Okay, and then after reaching certain maximum, optimum, then it will decrease. Okay, and if the top, as I mentioned, if the top of the column is open, then all particles will be transferred. Otherwise, if I keep closed, then what I am doing reverse operation. See, once the particles are transferred out of the column, then the pressure drop will increase again. Now I am stopping here. Before reaching the terminal velocity, I am stopping and I am doing reverse operation. What happens? Yeah, the trend will be the same. The path will be the same up to this fluidized condition. After that, it won't be same. Okay, so there will be slight variation or decrease in the porosity, pressure drop. Okay, so this is called hysteresis phenomenon, and you can add some surfactant so that this you can solve. Now coming to the second plot, I can make a plot of bed voidage versus gas velocity. Okay, you know what is bed voidage? That is the gap between the particles. So the total voidage I can calculate. So if I make a plot of bed voidage, that is the space available for the fluid to flow. Okay. So bed voidage versus minimum versus gas velocity. Again, at initial, the bed is static, fixed bed. So voidage will be same. And as soon as I increase the velocity further at one particular velocity, I can see the bed voidage will increase or the bed height will increase. So that point is the minimum fluidization velocity. It will increase continuously. Then it reaches the terminal velocity. So if the particles are transferred, then voidage will be 1. That is full column is available. If you have at the top closer, then particles won't escape. Okay. So it will be, voidage will be nearing 0.8 or 0.9 like that. Okay. Now we can make wall heat transfer coefficient versus gas velocity. In that case also, up to minimum fluidization velocity, the coefficient will increase and still it will increase, but the trend will change. The line, straight line is changing. Okay. And it will reach as a maximum, that is called optimum velocity, optimum gas velocity. After that, it won't, the whatever increase in velocity, no, the heat won't be taken up by the wall. Instead, it will be used for some other purpose. It will be taken for the heating or some. So, wall will be reached the maximum. Then it will drop. Heat transfer coefficient will drop. Okay. And after up to terminal velocity, it will be minimum. then again it will increase. If the particles are escaping, then it will be increasing. Okay. So applications of fluid-based reactors we can use for chemical, petrochemical, metallurgical, mineral, biochemical operations, fermentation processes, biotreatment of wastewater, refineries, hydrometallic operations, and polymeric industries. So I'm not explaining these. These are typically applications you can see just polyethylene production. And yeah, so this one comparison between suspended and this immobilized fluid-based reactor can be used for biochemical operations, bioprocesses, or even water treatment. What we can do, we can take the particle, to that particle we can attach microorganism and we can use this attached particle for the treatment of wastewater. We are going to study in detail later. Okay. And another application, ethanol fermentation conditions. Then the production of patchouli. This is the production of patchouli. And you can see the classification of the fluid-based bed reactors. First one, it is three-phase fluid-based bed reactor. I have already explained. And tapered three-phase fluid-based bed reactor. The column structure varies. Okay. Then this one is the draft tube fluid-based bed reactor. Inside, I can introduce one draft tube so that the particles will be circulated through the draft tube. And instead of that, what I can do instead of column, I can connect two draft tubes. So this will be external circulating three-phase fluid-based bed. This one, okay. This one is the external circulating three-phase fluid-based bed. And you can see this one is the inverse three-phase fluid-based bed. See, what is the difference? Initially, I told in fluidization, we are using the solids. The density of the solids are higher than the density of the fluid, maybe gas or liquid. That is conventional three-phase fluid. Whereas for inverse, what we are doing, we are taking particles having density less than that of the gas or liquid. In this case, what happens? The solids know because their density is less, they'll form a bed at the top. Because of buoyancy force, at the top they will form the bed. And we have to introduce the liquid from the top, downward flow. Then at a particular velocity, the solids will move down. So that is minimum fluidization velocity. Okay. And this one is, yeah, inverse three-phase fluidized bed reactor with baffle. Some baffle is there here. Different types. And draft tube here. And this one is the bubble column. The last one we can see, that is the downward flow bubble column contact aerator. So here it will be fluidizing. Okay. Let us come to inverse fluidization. What is inverse? As I told earlier, so the solid particles are having less density. So you can achieve fluidization by introducing the liquid downflow. So the solids can be fluidized at low liquid velocity, minimum energy consumption, and low solid attrition. These are the advantages over conventional fluidized bed reactor. We can use for biochemical, food, environmental processes, very efficient system for the biological treatment of wastewater. So if you observe the liquid solid two-phase inverse fluidized bed reactor, so initially it will be at the packed condition, then the particles will try to move with the liquid, but they can't move. They will settle again. They will move and settle again. That is termed semi-fluidized bed. Okay. That is the onset of fluidization. Then what happens? Yeah, partial fluidization will be there. Partial means it is not partial. The particles will move. The bed height will be increased to certain level. 50, 60%, 70% like that. That is semi-fluidized bed. Fully fluidized bed means the column will be occupied by the complete particles. All particles will be in the suspended form or fluidized form. Okay. So the total column will be with a mixture of liquid, solid, and gas. If it is two-phase, liquid and solid, or gas and solid. So this inverse fluidized bed reactor also very efficient system, and it can be used for ferrous ion oxidation using thiobacillus ferroxidans, and this was successfully used for hydrolysis of milk protein using Lactobacillus helveticus. You can see um, yeah, so fluidized bed reactors with non-Newtonian liquids. So it has more advantage if you use non-Newtonian fluids or the whatever water treatment process or other processes. It will be identical to non-Newtonian fluids handling. So it has wide applications. We are going to study that also in ceramic engineering, filtration of polymer solutions and slurries, flow through ion exchange beds, groundwater hydrology, petroleum reservoir engineering, polymer processing, production of microbiological mass in fermenters and activated sludge units, and extraction of metals from leached pulp. So our fluidized bed and inverse fluidized bed reactors are effective devices for wastewater treatment. They are having high volumetric efficiency and they are having long-term stability. So these reactors can be used for the abatement of pollutants such as phenol, nitrobenzene, pentachlorophenol. So we know the water treatment process: preliminary, primary, secondary, tertiary. Okay. So preliminary, primary you can do. Under secondary, you can take some technique, but you can suppose industries are facing with some particular pollutant, then we can focus this fluidized or inverse fluidized bed reactor. Also airlift reactors, they have wide application. So this will be for the specific treatment of the removal of the pollutant, organic or inorganic also you can plan. And let us see, so we are going to see about the hydrodynamics, minimum fluidation velocity, porosity and hold up. Then effect of additives, non-Newtonian liquids, glycerol, surfactants, non-Newtonian liquids. Newtonian, first one Newtonian, glycerol surfactant, non-Newtonian, CMC, xanthan gum, and models for the calculation of minimum fluidation velocity or hold up. Then RSM is used, and also mass transfer studies were made, and wastewater treatment was done. Wastewater treatment was done by my student using IFBR. You can see this is the setup, and I have taken a photograph. You see the column. This is the column. In this column, the column, yeah, it is a height of 1.8 meter, and the diameter is 100 centimeter. Sorry, 100 millimeter. Okay, and we can divide in. We divided into three sections. Here we have shown only three sections. Okay, so at the bottom we have air inlet, and also provision for inserting the master this probe, DO probe. Then we have one solid inlet also. Okay, and this one is the top is the gas discharge section. Okay, it will be conical type, and bottom we have liquid discharge section. Here it is conical section where gas will be separated and discharged. This one is the liquid discharge section. So we have flanges at the top as well as bottom, and also mesh will be inserted here also and here also, at the top as well as at the bottom, to retain the particles. Otherwise, the particle will escape. Okay. And we have one tank. In this, liquid will be kept and it is pumped to the column at the top. So we have rotameters, different rotameters to measure the flow rate of the liquid, and also control valves. Okay. So the liquid will be introduced at the top through again here one sparger. Okay. And it will come down. Here this is the liquid discharge section. Through that it will come down and it will be collected back to the tank. Again it is circulated. So recirculation is there. So for wastewater treatment we have to circulate so many times. Once it is treated we have to stop. Okay. Then if yeah, we can introduce gas also through this sparger, and this is the glass column. So above I am pasting one scale, graphical scale, to measure the bed height, and also we have provisions to connect the manometer to measure the pressure drop. Okay. So initially what I have to do, I have solid inlet here. Yeah. So certain level I have to fill the liquid initially. The height should be less than this solid inlet. Then known quantity of solids, I have to open this inlet, and known quantity of solids I have to introduce, insert. Okay. And you see, I should not take more quantity. As I mentioned, it should be of 40% or 60% maximum, 40 to 60. Okay, of the volume. Then I can close this. Then I have to fill the column with the full of water. First I will explain about two phase. Later we'll see the three phase. Okay. Then actually this I have to adjust these control valves. The valve which is here, the pump. So this rotameter valves I can control. So I can different range of rotameters. So it will pass through any one. I can control the valve and I can introduce the liquid to the column. Okay. So flow rate I can control, and this drain valve also I can adjust. Okay. So what I am doing now, so the column is filled with water completely. Then I am closing the two control valves, and also pump is switched off. So now the particles will, what happens, the particles will settle at the top from the bed. So I have to measure the height of the bed. Okay. Since the particles are having less density, it will form the bed at the top. I will measure the height. Then what I have to do, 1 minute, let me take some water. So then what we have to do, we have to start the pump and set some velocity. I am starting from zero. Initially, there is no velocity. I noted the bed height and pressure drop also. Then I have to set at some lower velocity. Okay. Then I have to observe this bed height and pressure drop. Slowly, I have to increase the velocity. So at one particular point, the bed height will change. Up to this packed bed, the pressure drop will increase. Once the fluidization starts, the pressure drop will be constant, whereas the bed height will increase. Okay, so I have to note, I have to vary the velocity, then I have to observe the bed height and pressure drop. Okay, so I can reach the maximum velocity. I am not going for the terminal velocity because here it is closed. So maximum velocity I can operate. Then I have to do reverse operation. Slowly the same set points I have to come back. Okay, and I have to observe the bed height and pressure drop. Okay. So I can make the plots, whatever plots I explained. No, you can make the plots. We can calculate the bed wide edge, pressure drop, and I can make the plots. From that, I can determine the minimum fluidation velocity. Visually also I can see and I can note, but better with the pressure drop plot. Okay, yeah. Now coming to the three phase, normally we'll use the wastewater. So in that case, what happens? We have to introduce sometimes, yeah, this air or gas also. So we have conducted trial runs with a solid, water and air. So for that, what we have to do, we have one inlet for the gas. Normally air will be used. Okay. So before starting the, I have done the mass transfer studies using this three-phase fluidized bed reactor. So what I have to do, initially, okay, that I will explain later. Three-phase fluidized bed, how to do the experiment. Let me explain that. What I have to do, first I have to fix the liquid velocity. I set the liquid velocity, then I can vary the gas velocity. So same happens. Only here both two phases are there, liquid and gas. So one will be at fixed. So UL is fixed, whereas UG I am varying. So I can get one minimum fluidation velocity, UGMF. If it is two phase, only one I can get ULMF and UGMF, either ULMF or UGMF. But here you see, at particular UL1, I will get one UGMF1. Then I am changing another UL. Then I can get UGMF2, UL3, UGMF3. Like that, at a different fixed liquid velocities, I can vary the gas velocity and I can point out the minimum fluidation velocity. Similarly, what I can do, the other one also I can do. I can fix the gas velocity and vary the liquid velocity. So at fixed gas velocity, what is the minimum fluidation velocity? I can note. Then I can vary the next fixed liquid velocity. What is next fixed gas velocity? What is the liquid velocity? Like that, I can do the experiments. Okay. For mass transfer operation, mass transfer studies, what I have to do? I have to introduce nitrogen gas into the reactor. So all oxygen will be removed. So my DO probe connected and it is connected with 1 meter, it will show 0. Okay. I have to note that. Then what I have to do, I have to introduce gas. If I introduce gas at particular velocity, then this meter will show the oxygen uptake rate. I have to mark that. Let us see the calculations later. Okay. And this is the setup and we have to do the experiments and we have to do the calculations. So these are the materials used for the study in inverse fluidized bed reactor. This table shows the properties of solid particles used, properties of aqueous solutions of glycerol for Newtonian fluid. This table shows properties of aqueous solutions of carboxymethyl cellulose. So we should give in terms of K and N, flow consistency index and flow index for non-Newtonian fluids. So the methods used are bed expansion. I explained a visual method, pressure drop manometer, phase hold up using volume expansion technique. So we can that also I will explain with the experimental setup. Mass transfer I explained, okay, physical or dynamic method. So for phase hold up study, let me go back to the instrument, this one. Yeah, solids, we have taken known quantity of solids. So solid weight we can take up. Then at particular condition, what we have to do, simultaneously we have to close both valves. Then what happens? The level will come down. Why? Because whatever gas occupied at the top will be escaping. So some reduction will be there. So we have to note that height. Okay. So the void space we know. So the void space will be voidage we are calculating at that particular velocity. So at that particular velocity, whatever voidage is there, that one will be equal to the liquid. It is equal for liquid and gas, but we can subtract. Or epsilon will be equal to epsilon s plus epsilon l plus epsilon g. So solid epsilon s solid hold up we can calculate using the quantity of solids with the different heights. Okay. Then liquid what we'll do? Sorry, gas from the height. We can note the height of the gas by simultaneously closing the two valves. That we can calculate. So solid hold up, liquid hold up, gas hold up I can add, subtract from 1. Then it will be liquid hold up. Okay. That also it is coming, formula is coming. So if I make the bed porosity versus liquid velocity, superficial liquid velocity, then it's not clear. Okay, as we have seen, it is not the typical ideal plot. So what we can do, we can make a plot of pressure drop versus superficial liquid velocity. This is for the liquid solid. Even if I make pressure drop versus UL, here it won't be clear cut. So there will be, you can see the deviations here. So what I have done, I have divided the fluidized bed height at that particular velocity, del P by L, I calculated. So what happens initially, the pressure drop will increase. Okay. Then it will be constant. Once it reaches the fluidized condition, it should be constant. Okay. But instead of that constant, because it will be fluctuate, so what I have done, deviations will be there. No. What I have done, I have divided by the fluidized bed height. Fluidized bed height, whereas it is increasing. So del P by L will decrease. Okay. So I get a sharp point which will indicate the minimum fluidization velocity. So this method is better. Best method for determining the minimum fluidization velocity. So as I mentioned, I can vary the, fix the liquid velocity and varies the Okay, fix the gas velocity and vary the liquid velocity so that I can get this lot for 3-phase. Similarly, fix the liquid velocity and vary the gas velocity UGMF I can get. And this is the plot. As I increase the glycerol concentration, the ULMF will be reducing. Similarly, CMC concentration also if I increase, it is reducing because of the viscosity. So we got the dimensionless correlation for Newtonian system and non-Newtonian system in terms of ReLMF. That means Reynolds number. So it includes the ULMF, superficial velocity of that in terms of Archimedes number and gas phase Reynolds number. Okay, and I got R square value 0.85, 0.95 like that, and errors are 16 and 19%. And later, what I have done, that one is dimensionless, and I used one model. It is called modified gas perturbed liquid model available. Gas perturbed liquid model is available, and it is modified for fluidized bed reactor. And I consider the literature values. Still, I obtained the better parameters. These A, B values. Okay. So this also fits well the data. So nowadays we are using response surface methodology for our bioprocesses as well as other. So the advantage here is we can have this effect, different more than several variables we can handle using this. Okay, interactive effect we can observe. The advantage is we can conduct small number of experiments and time limitations are there. Then we can observe the interaction effect more than two. Normally we can handle 2 parameters, but using this RSM we can handle more parameters. Okay, so we developed the correlations for that using RSM for ULMF and UGMF. The same observation given in whatever plots I explained earlier, no, the same it is observed in using the contour plots and surface plots. Okay, coming to the hold up, yeah, you see how to calculate the hold up here. Solid hold up can be calculated at a different bed heights using the formula. Okay, and liquid hold up, this is correlation. Yeah, experimental. Yeah, only okay. Experimental formula I have not given. Okay, anyway. It is there with me. I will share if you want. So I can, as I mentioned, known quantity of solids we are taking. So we can calculate solid hold up and liquid gas hold up from the experiment. So 1 minus this solid and gas, you will get liquid hold up. I can make a plot of hold up versus gas velocity. So I can observe, you see here, the solid hold up will decrease continuously. Why? Even though solid quantity is not changing, but the bed height changes. Initially packed bed, then slowly it is moving to the fluidized bed, then full column. Okay, so the solid hold up will reduce. As gas velocity increases, definitely the gas hold up will increase. So since gas hold up is increasing, the liquid hold up will reduce. Same effect if you increase the liquid velocity, liquid hold up will increase, gas hold up, there will be some slight reduction. Okay. And this is the plot showing gas hold up versus liquid velocity. Yeah, as liquid velocity increases, superficial velocity, gas hold up decreases. So we used one model, modified reflex model, and we observed the equations for epsilon L, epsilon S, and epsilon G. As I mentioned, this volumetric mass transfer coefficient, what we have to do initially, we have to purge the system using nitrogen 0. Okay, then we are increasing the velocity and we are observing the oxygen uptake rate. The meter will be showing the constant ppm level. Okay, concentration also you can note, or oxygen uptake rate, and using that I can make the plots. This this equation for mass transfer coefficient. So if I make a plot of this ln value versus t, I will get a straight line. Slope of the line will be KLG. Liquid phase, mass transfer, volumetric, gas liquid, mass transfer coefficient. So this plot shows my mass transfer coefficient versus bed height, effect of solid loading. as I increase the solid loading, I can vary the quantity of solids. Okay. So at different liquid flow rates, if I increase the bed height, this mass transfer coefficient will decrease. And I can say this is only for the trial runs or this, what is that, using solid water gas. Okay. Whereas if I do the real biochemical wastewater treatment, in that case, um, my organism is the reactant. It is going to play the role, whereas the other solid material will be the support. So what happens if I increase the bed height? So there are possibilities for the increase in the mass transfer coefficient. Okay, whereas this one is the not with the organism, so it is ideal solid particles. So it is decreasing. And I have used spherical particles only. I forgot to tell. I used for my studies the spherical particles, which are ideal particles, you know very well. Okay, yeah, and sizes 4, 6, 8 particles I have used. Then coming to this mass transfer coefficient versus liquid velocity, if I make a plot, then as liquid velocity is increased, there will be increase in the mass transfer coefficient. Whereas if I see the gas velocity, if I increase the gas velocity, then my mass transfer coefficient will increase and it will be very significant. Okay. Then the last one is if I vary the concentration of the xanthan gum or glycerol, then what happens you see? As the concentration is increased, my mass transfer coefficient will decrease because of the rheological properties of the liquid. Okay, viscosity. The same effects in contour plots. So we developed a correlation, and we can see it is fitting well, and the errors are minimum. R square is good. Deviation error is there. Then coming to the wastewater treatment. So we have to focus on this wastewater treatment. For that, we cannot use the spherical particle. We have to choose different size of particle, a different shape of the particle. So there should be space available for the organism to grow in using the solid supporting material. Okay. So this is the one size, and this will be the another size. This one third. This only we have chosen because it will be we got this particle, and also the available space will be good enough for the organism to grow. Okay, so initially we have to grow the grow the organism in the particles. So for that, we have to conduct the batch study. We can take the conical flask. In that conical flask, we put up these solid particles. Okay, and yeah, that medium plus this organism. Okay, so what happens? And yeah, this conical flask will be closed and it should be kept on rotation. So initially, the organism will pick the medium and it will grow. So we can see separately organism and particles initially. Then there will be a formation of biofilm inside the particle. This is another particle shape. Any shape we can use, whichever is having surface area more. We need more surface area. Okay, that type of particle you can use. Yeah, coming to this, the technique is called immobilization, what I explained. Okay, you can take up the solids in a conical flask and attach the organism to the solid. So this is called biocarrier. This one is the bioparticle. Okay, and once the organism are good in good condition, you know, organism growth curve, it will be having four stages. Okay, lag phase, log phase, stationary phase, death phase. Okay, so you can take up the particles at the end of the log phase or in between. Yeah, better log phase. So you observe the growth when it is good. You should not go to the stationary phase. So when the growth is good, you can take up and transfer the complete grown organisms with particles to the inverse fluidized bed reactor. Here we are going to conduct the wastewater treatment. Okay. So the same column we used and we inserted this grown organism and wastewater is introduced. Then what happens? The organisms and medium also. So it may be wastewater and initially organisms are grown using medium. So some cases we can introduce small quantity of medium. Otherwise, it will pick up the contaminants. Yeah, wastewater is circulated. So the contaminants in the wastewater, organic contaminants, that is the food for the organisms. So the organism will take up these contaminants and they will grow. So we'll get the water which is having reduced contaminants. So if we have to recirculate more times, we have to circulate the water through the reactor. That's why we have one tank. From that, continuously we have circulated. Okay. So at one point we'll reach the maximum removal of the contaminant. So my water will be some purified water. It will be of 80 to 90%. In that condition, we can stop. Okay. So my organism may be in need of the oxygen. In that case, we have to supply oxygen also. Otherwise, it's not required. You can see how the experiments are conducted using. We have to select the particle. So this, biocarrier I mentioned, no. So bioparticle means it is the particle on which microorganism is growing. Biofilm. So after some 40 days, 30, 40 days, see the spaces are occupied by the organism. Organism grown and it will form a film. This is called biofilm, the layer of microorganisms. So this bioparticle and film together, it is called biocarrier. Here the solids are acting as supporting material. You see, initially particles, spaces are clear here. Later you see the organisms well grown after 40 days. So these particles are taken for the treatment of wastewater. So one of my research scholar, he has done the experiment. So whatever I explained initially using solid, solid particles, liquid and gas. Okay, the trial runs I have done during my PhD work, and later in NIT, one of my student he has taken the domestic wastewater, and he treated the wastewater using inverse fluidized bed reactor. He completed the PhD work, and initially he joined as faculty only, part-time PhD. So this table shows the colony morphology. So gram reaction, colony number. Now we see the results of the wastewater treated. So from these results are from the batch studies. So we can see the optimum conditions. pH should be 7, it will be convenient. And inoculum concentration 7.5 volume by volume will be good. Minimum duration should be 2 days for the batch studies. Okay. So first plot shows the percentage COD reduction versus time. And if you see pH 7 will be good. Yeah, it will be optimum. There is no need to go for 8, 9, 10 because at 7 itself it is the percentage COD reduction is good. So we have taken what is that? Yeah, chemical oxygen demand COD as the variable. Then number of days you see, I think it is 1 minute. Let me check. It is 8 days. Yeah, some 8 days are sufficient for the treatment. 8 to 14 days. Beyond that, no, again, it will be reached, optimum will be reached. This for batch studies, 2 days he has done, but that will come later even. And minimum inoculation concentration will be good, 7.5 will be good. And you can see the velocity also, that flow rate, milligram per liter, 910 will be, no, this violet, 3950 milligram per liter Yeah, COD removal, no, from 4 it is removed. Percentage COD reduction we have to check. That is coming next. Yeah, you see here. So continuous study results he has got in this percentage effect of bed height on percentage COD reduction, you can see. He varied different bed heights. So he obtained 0.8 meter is optimum. That means, yeah, 0.8 meter, yeah. 0.8 meter bed height is optimum. And from this plot, you can see the initial concentration of 910 milligram per liter is used and COD reduction versus hydraulic retention time. So how long we can retain? See, you see here at yeah, higher velocities, so up to 14 days. After that, there won't be much increase in the percentage COD reduction. So 12 to 14 days sufficient for the removal of the contaminants. And you can see this plot effect of initial concentration on percentage COD reduction. Yeah, you know, minimum initial concentration will be good for the more efficiency. So we have, as far as possible, we have to dilute the wastewater. Okay. So the results obtained, no, initial COD has taken 1120 milligram per liter and hydraulic retention time 24 hours. So superficial gas velocity 0.00318 meter per second. Bed height optimum 1.8 meter. For that percentage COD reduction, we got 81.25 percentage. So he has compared his experimental results with the simulated data in ANN, and yeah, better results he got. So coming to the summary, yeah, I can say fluidized bed reactors as well as inverse fluidized bed reactors, no, they are excellent reactors for conducting the wastewater treatment, also for the biochemical processes. Only thing is the handling, design and simulation part, modeling part, it will be difficult. Handling will be easy, but mathematical modeling and designing are complex aspects. Okay. So if we focus, we can use the inverse fluidized bed reactor effectively. So these are the honors I have received and publications, awards I got. Yeah, 15 students completed under my guidance and one student Viva we are planning. So this may happen within 1 or 2 weeks. And another 5 students are working. And this was my research group. Yeah, it was taken in during the Teachers' Day, 2015. Yeah, thank you very much.